Title: A Journey Through Detainment and Discovery by Dandra Smith. In my life, I had often found myself swept up in the high-flying world of rich, powerful people. At one point, I was dating a wealthy black music executive, and through him, I met a girl from Los Angeles who soon became part of our circle. She stayed with us, and we shared some unforgettable moments, though some were filled with heartbreak. One night, we witnessed another girl have her heart shattered by the same man I was dating. As I watched her cry, I cried too, knowing exactly how she felt. The girl from Los Angeles and I saw the whole ordeal unfold, and we couldn't help but think how foolish this girl seemed, still hoping for his affection. That night, we decided to go through his liquor cabinet, and the girl I was with joked about how old some of the wine was. We laughed, knowing that wine ages well with time, much like our understanding of life, love, and heartbreak. That same night, the girl he'd just broken up with cooked him a bizarre meal of creamy corn and cold hot dogs. Meanwhile, we sat in the other room, quietly observing the unraveling of her relationship while ours still held together, for now. Fast forward, and he sent me on a lavish trip to France and Africa. I had to provide a letter to passport authorities detailing my travel plans. The first stop was Nice, France, where I reconnected with the girl from Los Angeles. The lifestyle was opulent, with billionaires everywhere, living lives I could only dream of. We even had a chance to meet Nelly. While he seemed hesitant to engage with us, his entourage was welcoming, and we ended up smoking some colorful weed that left me feeling entirely disabled. Despite the haze, I remember playing Wii golf with Nelly, experiencing the game for the first time on a massive screen. One evening, his manager tried to hit on me, but I quickly brushed it off. After all, I was already staying in the better hotel, there was no reason for me to settle for less. The girl from Los Angeles, Melody, had issues with her boss, and I believed her side of the story at the time. However, as time passed, I realized she was often the problem. Still, we had an incredible time traveling through Europe until we eventually fell out. But that's a story for another day. Eventually, it was time to go home, but things took a drastic turn when I was stopped by immigration authorities. After a black man who bore a slight resemblance to me was detained, I was next in line. The discrimination was evident. The officer looked at me and sneered, "In America, they go through hard times, so will you." Furious, I lashed out, cursing and yelling that I hoped they would keep facing such difficulties. This landed me in Greece, where I was held by immigration for several days. From Greece, I was sent to London, but the authorities there turned me back. As I was put on a plane to return to Greece, I was told it was my last meal, a chilling message that I still remember vividly. Back in Greece, I found myself in immigration prison. Upon arrival, I sat next to a man from Afghanistan, and we both smoked cigarettes indoors, which seemed to be one of the few freedoms left. Suddenly, the guards came, and they began to beat him while yelling Malacca. I was horrified. In the days that followed, I was placed near another Afghan man who had a wife and 5 children. His breakdown was tragic, he refused to eat and spent his days in tears. My week in immigration prison was surreal. I lived out of my luggage, which was ransacked by the guards. Despite this, I shared what I could with other women, shampoo, small items, anything to offer some comfort. I even washed with toothpaste when necessary. Meanwhile, I observed the guards treating Somalian detainees with an even harsher hand, as they weren't given the same privileges as Americans. At night, we played a strange game where one person was blindfolded in the center of the room while others pulled and hit them. The goal was for the person to guess who had hit them. I participated once, terrified but determined, and correctly identified the Egyptian man who had struck me. As the days passed, I received a letter detailing my court date and the fines I needed to pay, $1,500 or face deportation to Africa under a false identity. While no one could come up with a full amount, 3 people were willing to help split the cost. But I was still nervous, no money had come through. Desperate, I reached out to the VA Medical Center in Washington, D.C., and explained my situation. Thankfully, they stepped in, helping me secure my release and sending me back home. My journey through detainment was harrowing, but it was also a lesson in survival, strength, and understanding the limits of one's privilege, even when surrounded by the wealthiest people in the world. I returned home changed, with stories I never imagined I'd live to tell. To be continued.